Hey, the soup for breakfast is so bland. Why is it so watery? It's not good. No, it's not. Make it richer, will you? But the doctor said you should watch your salt. Who cares? I love rich flavors. The person complaining is my mother-in-law, whom I call Mil for short. She always wants her food to be heavily seasoned, even though she's overweight and has been warned by her doctor, but she doesn't listen and just adds more salt and pepper to everything I make. I was shocked by the amount she dumped into the soup I carefully made. Even though I use low-sodium ingredients, it's never enough for her. I can't help but think she'll end up getting really sick one day if she keeps doing this. Honestly, I wouldn't feel that bad if it happened. Mel seems to enjoy making my life difficult. She's always complaining and being mean to me. I'm Alice, 29 years old, working a job while also taking care of the house. I've been married to my husband for 3 years, but we don't have any kids because I'm struggling with infertility, and Mel never lets me forget it. You're worthless as a woman if you can't have children, she tells me. You're defective. You should be grateful just to be allowed to live in this house. Yes, you're right. I'm defective. We've tried so many times, and I still can't have kids. Guess I'm just unlucky. I forced a laugh, but deep down, it hurt. Well, because a woman who can't have kids is finished, she sneered. Yeah, ma'am, you're right, my husband chimed in, laughing along with her. I really want a baby. I've been going to the doctor and getting treatments, even while working, but nothing is helping, and it's exhausting both physically and emotionally. So, I decided to stop the treatments. They were expensive, and I just couldn't keep going forever. My husband used to say it was a waste of money, yet he kept pushing me to get pregnant. It was so frustrating, because I can't make it happen if it's just not working. After stopping the treatments, I thought we could still live a happy life, just the two of us, but Mel wasn't ready to give up on having a grandchild. One day, she bought a pack of diapers and waved them in front of me. Look, I bought diapers, she said with a smirk. What? Why would you buy those? I asked, confused. You'll need them someday, she said smugly. Aren't they a bit small for you to wear? Mel, I replied sarcastically. Haha, these are for a baby, can't you see that? She scoffed. Well, I wouldn't know. I'm just a defective woman who can't have children, remember? Haha, that's enough. My mother-in-law stomped off angrily to her room. Thank goodness, I thought, already worn out from work and not in the mood to handle her mean comments any longer. It felt like she had nothing better to do than make my life miserable. We moved in with my in-laws a year ago after my father-in-law passed away. My mother-in-law was really upset back then. Around the same time, her doctor warned her about being at risk for diabetes. My husband wanted to support her, so we moved in. But honestly, despite her health warnings, she's fine as long as she takes her medicine and eats properly. There's really no need for us to be here. But she doesn't take her meds and eats whatever she wants, so her condition will probably get worse. I just hope I'm not the one stuck taking care of her when that happens. I'm only in my 20s and have my own job to worry about. Taking care of in-laws right now. No, thank you. The next day was my day off, so I was doing some chores. Normally, my mother-in-law just lounges on the sofa, eating snacks all day, but suddenly, she got up and walked into my room. I didn't want her in there, but I was busy, so I couldn't stop her. I cleaned your room for you, she announced proudly. Oh, thank you, I replied, feeling something was off. I should switch rooms with my son. You know, if you keep such a messy room, you'll get bugs, she sneered, but it suits you, huh? Sure, enjoy your clean room, then, I said, playing along. She seemed to think I was grateful, which made me even more suspicious. I had a feeling she did something sneaky in my room. That night, I decided to sleep in my husband's room. He's been away on a business trip since yesterday, so he wouldn't even know. And even if he found out, I knew he wouldn't be mad. We have separate bedrooms anyway because of my night shifts at work as a nurse and because, honestly, our relationship has cooled off. But tonight, I wasn't taking any chances. Once my mother-in-law was in her room, I quickly moved into my husband's room to sleep. I stayed there for 2 days. My mother-in-law started acting suspicious, especially when she saw me looking cheerful. She began asking weird questions. "Don't you feel any pain or anything?" she asked, peering at me closely. "Ah, what do you mean?" I asked, confused. "Oh, never mind," she mumbled, avoiding eye contact. What was she trying to find out? I was sure she was hiding something. My mother-in-law ate her dinner alone. I had a night shift that day, so I planned to relax a bit at home before heading to work. But relaxing isn't an option for me, since my mother-in-law never helps around the house. She loves ordering me around while lying on the couch, snacking, and reading women's comics. I noticed the cover of her comic, which was poorly translated into English as Epic Mother and Daughter-in-Law Swan Battle. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. It looked ridiculous. Eventually, my husband came back from his business trip, but it was already 10 p.m. I'm exhausted. I'm going to hop in the bath, he said. "Sure, I'll heat it up for you. Grab a drink in the meantime," I replied. "Thanks, I will." Wait, it's not safe to drink alcohol before a bath. "Fine, I'll just have a non-alcoholic beer, then," he said reluctantly. He finally agreed and drank the non-alcoholic beer. I always have to remind him that drinking alcohol and then taking a hot bath isn't safe. You'd think he'd know that by now every public bathhouse has warnings about it, but common sense doesn't seem that common for him or my mother-in-law. After his bath, my husband started singing loudly. We live in a single-family home, but still singing at this hour, the neighbors won't be pleased. La 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 la, he sang loudly. "Hey, you're too loud, quiet down," I said. "You're the one being loud," he shouted back. "Stop singing already," I said, trying to keep my voice down. Just then, my mother-in-law walked over and chimed in. "He's just trying to have a good time singing. What's the problem? You really don't know how to treat your husband, do you? Always complaining and being inconsiderate." "Hey, I'm not the one constantly complaining, man." "Haha, talking bad. You're definitely not cute. Not that you're a beauty to begin with." "That's fine by me. Maybe I'm a beauty somewhere else in the world. No worries," I replied with a smirk. After that, my husband got out of the bath and grabbed another drink. By this time, it was already 10:30 p.m., and I needed to leave for the hospital where I work. Even though it's close by, I like to arrive early and prepare for my shift. "Oh, by the way, I've been sleeping in your room. Would you mind sleeping in mine tonight? My clothes are all over the place in your room. Sorry." Sure, doesn't matter to me." "Great, I'm off then. Take care," I told him quietly, so my mother-in-law wouldn't hear. Just as I was about to grab my bag and leave, I heard my husband groan loudly. "What's wrong?" "Watkin," he shouted, curled up on the floor, clutching his leg. He looked to be in a lot of pain. My mother-in-law's face went pale as she started to panic. What's going on?" she stammered. "Speak, what happened?" I demanded. But my husband couldn't say a word. No matter what I asked, he remained unresponsive. His face twisted in pain. I knew I needed to do something, but then I noticed something on the floor was unusually slippery. Even with my socks on, I could barely keep my balance. It was as if I was standing on ice. "What the heck is this?" I muttered. "Watkin, Mom, what on earth did you do?" I shouted, turning towards my mother-in-law. "I didn't do anything. It's not my fault," she yelled back, looking terrified. Blaming her at that moment wouldn't help, so I immediately called an ambulance. My husband was taken straight to the hospital where I work. At that point, my job was the last thing on my mind. He kept clutching his leg, visibly sweating and grimacing in pain. His face was contorted, and you could see it was serious. "Ow, it hurts so bad," he whimpered. "Watkin, hang in there, please," I urged him. Thankfully, the doctor on call was able to examine him quickly. His leg was, as we suspected, broken. It appeared that he had twisted his ankle the moment he slept on that slippery floor. The diagnosis, a fifth metatarsal fracture. His foot was visibly swollen and discolored. Typically, this type of fracture happens when someone twists their ankle or puts all their weight on the wrong part of their foot. I knew firsthand how painful it was. Years ago, I twisted my ankle falling down a flight of stairs. I still remember the lap snap and how unbearable the pain was. I was also diagnosed with a fifth metatarsal fracture. Back then, I was lost in my own world, listening to music on my earphones when it happened. It was so embarrassing that I even lied to my friends about it. Since my husband's fracture didn't require hospitalization, he was able to come back home with me. I was scheduled for a night shift, but my nursing supervisor insisted that I take the night off. It wasn't a life or death situation, but she seemed genuinely concerned. I was relieved I could stay with him. I survived, but now I've got a fever. My husband groaned as he lay on the couch. Well, you broke your leg. Of course, you get a fever, I replied, but my mind was still on that floor. But why was the floor so slippery? I asked, piecing things together. Why don't we ask Mom about that? Ah, he said, his eyes widening. Huh, hey, what did you do to the floor? I demanded, glaring at my mother-in-law. Well, she looked around nervously. The floor was all slippery. That's why you slipped and fell. Yeah, obviously. Why was it slippery? Well, that room is usually for my daughter-in-law, she said quietly. What? I greased the floor, she finally admitted. You what? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was hoping my daughter-in-law would slip, so I put a lot of grease on the floor. I never expected you to go in there and slip, she trailed off. I felt a surge of anger boil up inside me. She'd intentionally tried to hurt me, but my husband ended up being the one who got hurt instead. Unbelievable. All this scheming, all this malice, just to make me suffer. Do you realize how serious this is? I shouted, trembling with rage, but she just stood there, looking down, offering no apology, no remorse. My husband was still in pain, barely able to grasp what she had done. He looked at her, a mix of shock and disbelief on his face. Mom, why? He whispered. But she said nothing. I couldn't believe it. My mother-in-law actually put grease on the floor to make me fall. She pretended to have cleaned the room, but she really just wanted to hurt me. If I had stepped into that room, I could have broken my leg, but a broken leg might have been the least of my worries if I'd hit my head. It could have been fatal. This is being terrible. What she did is practically a crime. I was furious. You're awful, I yelled at her. You're not even family to me anymore. I got seriously hurt because of you. I'm calling the police. Wait a minute, I didn't actually hurt you, did I? She snapped back. It's your wife's fault. She's the one who told you to go into the room, didn't she? Blame her, not me. Shut up, my husband shouted. That's not the point. You're getting arrested. He was so mad, he started dialing the police right away. My mother-in-law tried to grab the phone, but even with his broken leg, my husband was stronger. He held onto the phone tightly, speaking to the police. I couldn't believe this was happening. I almost wished I was back at work dealing with patients instead of this mess. The neighbors were probably going to hear about this crazy situation soon. Maybe I should talk to the police too, I said calmly. After all, you almost hurt me as well. This might even count as attempted harm. Wait, no, I don't want to get arrested, she pleaded. Really? You knew what could happen when you did this, or did you think you could just get rid of me so easily? Well, I did think it would be better if you just disappeared, she admitted quietly. Wow, you're the worst. Your mindset is criminal. Honestly, I hope you stay in jail forever, I said, disgusted. My husband looked at her and sighed deeply. I think we should get a divorce. What? Over this? She cried, shocked. Yes, I can't stay here anymore. If I do, you might actually hurt me one day. I'm too scared to live like that. Plus, I'm tired of your complete lack of morals. Wait, don't say we'll get divorced over something like this. she begged. You've looked down on me for so long, calling me useless and defective. Do you even know how much that hurt? I can't live just fine without you. Oh, I need you, she wailed. I was counting on your income. I even got a new car. What car? I finally got the Toyota Century I've always wanted from Japan. I don't care anymore, he replied coldly. I quickly cleaned up the greasy mess and started packing my things. I shoved everything I could into a bag and grabbed my carry-on. Before leaving, I took off my wedding ring and placed it on the table. Then I remembered something. I went to the kitchen, rummaging through a shelf full of dishes. Ah, here it is. What? My husband asked. The divorce papers you wrote a while ago, I said, holding up the document. You remember, you wrote this saying, and if I couldn't have a child within 2 years, we'd get divorced. Well, now it's going to be official. He looked down, defeated, as I grabbed my things and walked out the door. I can't have kids anymore, so I told him, let's get a divorce. You must be happy now, right? He seemed shocked. Wait, what about the loan for my car? Who cares, I said, and left the house. I went straight to the hospital where I work. The head nurse didn't ask too many questions. When I showed up unexpectedly, she must have sensed I needed to be there. As a nurse, I knew I could support myself without needing a husband. I wondered why I'd put up with being treated like a servant by that awful family, enduring all their rude comments. It all felt so ridiculous now. That next morning, I filed for divorce. He's officially my ex-husband now. I also consulted a lawyer about getting compensation for the emotional pain he caused me. Now on. He had to pay me, and I couldn't help but think, serves you right. After the police got involved, the neighbors started avoiding my mother-in-law. She told everyone the story about how my ex broke his leg, and now people see her as a terrible person. It seems even my ex-husband doesn't want anything to do with her anymore and kicked her out. She's been crying because the little money she gets from the benefits program isn't enough to live on comfortably. She used to love eating a lot, and our grocery bills were always huge because of her. But now, she's forced to live a modest life. As for my ex-husband, I don't care what happens to him anymore. He mentioned something about a car loan, but I doubt he can afford it on his salary. He always assumed I'd pitch in, which really annoyed me. He wasn't even well off, but would still go and buy a new car without thinking. Later on, I started dating a doctor at the hospital, and 2 years after that, we got married. We were even blessed with a child. It felt like a miracle after everything I'd gone through. Now, I'm committed to doing my best for my new family.